Hey there! This is the last time that I will be recording in the studio. And it's not because I'm leaving YouTube, it's because our family is moving. It's a local move, we'll still be here in Raleigh, North Carolina. We've been in this house for a long time and it's time for us to move into a different house for a variety of reasons. And I've been in this studio space for almost 4 years. And I think the first video I recorded here was back in, I think, November of 2021. So it's been, again, almost 4 years. And before that, if you are a longtime viewer of this channel, I was using a much smaller bedroom in my house. And as I was starting to record more and more in my studio, I decided to move into this bedroom. So this bedroom here is roughly 12 feet by 15 feet. Now the studio and this shot, which you are used to seeing, has taken on quite a few different looks. When I originally moved into the space, I was just using a paper backdrop to keep it really simple and really clean. There's been a lot of different lighting configurations with lamps. We also had the slash on the wall, etc. But this shot has been fairly similar for a long time. Now, I know a lot of you have been asking me for a studio tour, and I did do one a while ago, but I took it down for a couple of reasons. Also, there's been a lot of cool new tweaks since then. So in this video, what I want to do is show you around a bit before I break it down. Now, I do want to mention that I'm kind of ridiculous when it comes to trying to get the highest quality, but also the biggest thing for me is all about efficiency. So there's been a lot of thought that went into this setup. There's been a lot of iterations and a lot of tweaks. And I also want to mention that all the gear that you're going to see here is set up almost permanently in the studio. So I've been investing in this gear over the course of probably 5 years or so. And what I wanted to do was have all the gear that you see and I use is just set up all the time. So if I have a gig or I'm doing camera testing or recording something else, I have different gear. This gear is just sitting here, so when I come in, I can just turn it on and I can either record talking head like this or tutorials and reviews, that sort of stuff, but I also live stream. So this setup is a little bit different, I think, than most people's because I'm using this for both recording high quality video for just normal talking head stuff, but also to do 4K live streaming. And most of you are familiar with that. I've been live streaming weekly for over 2 years now. Every single week, it's Thursday at 2 o'clock Eastern. And even before that, I was doing it every 2 weeks for quite a while. So I do quite a bit of live streaming from here too. Now, over here off to my right is my whole computer setup, and I made a whole video about that, and I'll leave that link down below. I also want to mention that I will link some of the products that I use and own down below as well, but this is not going to be a super detailed video with all the little details because what's going to happen is I'm going to be breaking the studio down just after I make this video, and then I'm going to be moving, and I'm going to take you along with the build process because in the new house, there's going to be some construction and I'm going to be building out a studio from scratch. And I think that'll be really cool to document that, show you the whole process, my thoughts, decisions, and then take you along for the journey. All right, so enough me yammering on. Let me take you away from this shot and I'm going to show you all around the studio. So this is the reverse angle. So normally I'm sitting over here talking to the camera. So this is what it looks like from the other side. So I want to show you a couple of things around here to explain the setup, and then of course take you around the rest of the office. So I have a lot going on here, so let me explain a little bit what's going on. Remember, this is used for recording videos here in the studio, but also for live streaming. So starting off in the middle here, inside of the teleprompter is the camera. That's the Blackmagic Pixis 6K. I love that camera for my studio, and before that I was using the 6K full frame, and I can't wait to upgrade to the Pixis 12K when it comes out. I think that'll be absolutely fantastic. This is a teleprompter from Prompter People. They sent me this a long time ago. I don't remember the model number. I also have used a different screen in here to project on there. This is connected to my computer as another monitor, so I can put whatever I want on there. So if it's notes for recording videos, if it's during a live stream, I put the comments up on the screen here. This is all connected to my Mac Studio that I use for my regular setup. And then the keyboard and my mouse that I have here, if I'm doing recording or streaming here, I'll put it over here. Otherwise, it goes back onto the other side next to my computer. So it all works off one computer. Now, this monitor over here is an older 32-inch BenQ, and this one is hooked up as a secondary monitor to my computer. So if I'm over here working, I just turn my other monitor off, and this becomes my main monitor. This is a secondary monitor that's inside there, which I just explained. Now, these two monitors are something I added recently. These are both 24-inch BenQ monitors. These are only 1080p, and they were fairly inexpensive. But the nice thing about these is they actually can display at 24 frames per second, so not all monitors do. I was sick of not being able to see if I was in focus and those sorts of things, and I messed up a few shots, and it's just really easy. So especially as I'm getting older, I want to be able to see things really well. So basically,
this monitor up here is my A cam, and this one, which is turned off right now, is set up for my overhead. Now, I have used a lot of different combinations of cameras, but I really like main A cam and overhead, and that works great for me. And both those are connected up to my computer for streaming as well. This down here is the Pixis monitor. This is fantastic because as I sit here, I can just work this. I can control everything on the camera, and I also get another preview on here. This has been awesome. One of the main reasons why I love the Pixis so much is I don't have to touch the camera. Everything is operated through here. This is my microphone that I use all the time. This is the Sennheiser MKH50, which I bought several years ago. It was very expensive. I don't regret it whatsoever. It is absolutely fantastic. Other things to point out here are that I use a Stream Deck for when I'm streaming, so I use that to control Ecamm Live. Ecamm Live is my streaming software of choice. I absolutely love it. And then you might be wondering about this whole rig set up here. This is for my overhead camera. This is way overkill, but I was so sick of things getting shaky, and I could put any weight of camera up here, whatever I wanted. So on this side is a Impact Varipole. I have 6 of them throughout the studio. I love them because they don't take up floor space, and they don't move, which is great too. On this side, I do have a C-stand because there's a ceiling fan above here, so I can't really put a stand here. So I have a C-stand here. And then this pipe that runs across is actually a piece of fencing top rail that I got from Lowe's. This is it's black, which is nice. I just cut it to fit. And then I use a bunch of super clamps and stuff on the sides. And this thing is rock solid. Like this, I can put up as heavy as of a camera as whatever I want. Super clamp here to like a ball head. And then I just mount my camera up here, and I have all the wiring just ready to go for whatever I need to do, whatever camera I want to use. This gets rotated quite a bit. There's no camera up here because I'm recording on the R5 Mark II right here. And this is a fairly new addition. This is the Blackmagic Ultra Studio 4K Mini, and this does a couple of things. First of all, it provides a really clean output from Resolve to my reference monitor over here, which I talked about in that other video. Also, it is a really clean input into my computer for streaming. So I send a 4K signal from the Pixis with 12G SDI directly into this, and this is one of the inputs for Ecamm Live. And I absolutely love this, and I would actually like to get a second one. So now this is a view going from the side of the desk, and let me back up a little bit to show you the structure. This is that C-stand here, and this is attached with a bunch of super clamps, and there's also one attached going this way with one of those 40-inch extension arms that you get with a C-stand over here to more Varipoles, and this keeps it really, really sturdy. Like I said, you can mount anything up there, and you can see that pole going across, mounting over to that Varipole over there. So that's all of that hardware, and over back behind here, that's the Pixis inside of the teleprompter. And I want to talk about these monitors. These are those two 24-inch monitors, and they're attached with this dual monitor stand here, just attached to the desk. So try to keep it as tidy as possible. I'm not the best about cable management though. Now, what YouTube Studio Tour would be complete without a Husky tool chest? There's a reason why you see almost every YouTuber, content creator, videographer have these in their studio or their office, is because they're so versatile and useful, and you can store so much stuff in them. So, of course, you have all these drawers under here for organizing and storing things, which is fantastic. And then you have a nice work table on top here for all sorts of different things. Now, this one here is the second one that I've added to my studio. It's a little bit more narrow than the first one I bought. I don't think they sell the super deep ones anymore. I bought this at Home Depot, and this is the same brand, the Husky brand, as my two 6-foot tables that I got from Home Depot as well. Now, what's unique about this one here is that I have this pegboard on the back here, and this does fit this perfectly. It was made for this. I'm not sure if they make this anymore, and I'm really lucky that I still have one from a while ago. So this attaches on here, and then I got a bunch of these bins, these wire bins and shelves, and these all attached to the pegboard, and I bought all the stuff off of Amazon, and this serves as my charging station. Now, you've probably seen a lot of charging stations where people will mount chargers to the wall. Well, I don't like that because I change my cameras around a lot, but also I want to be able to pull them off if I need to travel or plug them in somewhere else or whatever. So I found that this system works really well for me. So these little wire bins here are great. Like I have V-mounts here, other batteries and accessories. I have NPF batteries over here and a bunch of camera batteries up here. Now over here on the shelves here, I have the different chargers. for cameras, NPF. And then over here, this one is awesome because it is a 300-watt charger that has a lot of high-powered USB-C outs. And so I have a whole bunch of cables here, so no matter what I need to plug in, I just put it on the table here and I can charge it very quickly. Really handy, especially before a gig. So the night before I have a shoot, I will just throw everything on the table. So drone, gimbal, any other accessories, I just can plug it in here and it'll charge it up pretty quickly, and I have a dedicated space for that. So I try to keep this fairly clear and I can just charge things up whenever I need it. So this is awesome. Now, you might be wondering about behind this here. This is a sound blanket. I have 2 of these that wrap sort of behind where I talk. These are the sound blankets from, I think the company is called Producer's Choice. And these are hung up on the wall. The way I have this hung up on the wall is there's just a 2x4 at the top mounted to the wall, and then this screws into the 2x4 with some washers, some big washers to keep it up. And from what I've been told is you need to have a distance or a space between the wall and the blanket. This is only the thickness of a 2x4. It should be a little bit deeper, I believe. So when I do set these up in the new studio, I'm going to try to pull them away from the wall a little bit to try to get a little more sound absorption. Now, this doesn't keep the sound out from the rest of the house if people are home and those sorts of things, because there's a lot of gaps around and I have a thin door and stuff like that. And my kids are upstairs as well a lot of the time, right above me. But what this does help a lot with is just the sound treatment in the room. And between that and the carpet on the floor, it does pretty well. I don't do any post-processing with my audio from my talking head other than adjusting the volume. And of course, a lot has to do with the microphone that I use, but also the sound blankets make a huge difference. You see a lot of people talking about them. They're not that expensive, but make sure you have something supportive enough to hold them because they're heavy. Makes a huge difference here in the studio. Well, this is my other Husky tool chest. This is the first one that I bought, and this one is deeper than the other one. This one's amazing too, especially because it's even bigger and holds even more stuff. Now, it is never cleaned off like it is here. I just cleaned it off to make this video, but also the fact that I am going through things and packing and cleaning and those sorts of things. Now, this is a great work surface for just storing things, as we all have to do in normal life, but also for building out rigs and things like that. But the main thing I use this tabletop for is taking thumbnails. This is my thumbnail station. So if you've ever been curious about that, this is where I do it. So you can see like I have a camera here and it'll have a gray background. Well, that's just this wall here. So in terms of the lighting, I'm using an Amaran 200D, but you could use anything. And then I bring in a couple of portable lights just to sort of accent it, make it look a little bit, nicer. And this wall color, I got this paint from Benjamin Moore. I don't remember the color, but I brought in samples of, gray cards and stuff. I brought them in and we sort of picked the most neutral one that had the least amount of color pigments. And I wanted the walls to be gray so it wouldn't influence, when I was color grading and, recording and stuff like that. So this has been a really simple setup for me. Of course, my thumbnails are very basic, but when you see them, it's one of my thumbnails and I've been pretty consistent with it. So that's the whole setup here. Now, looking back towards the setup here, let me just show you how this all connects. So this is my editing station, which again, like I mentioned, is detailed in that other video. This is the talking head live streaming station. But let me talk about the lighting. So the main key light here is the Aperture 120D Mark II, the one that came out forever ago. And this is the SmallRig 48-inch softbox they sent me a long time ago. Now, the nice thing about this is it's so big and so soft that it gives me a lot of wrap on my face. I don't feel the need for a fill, and I actually like having a little more contrast on my face, so I think it works pretty well. So this is all done with just 4 lights. That's the main one. Now, looking back over here, you can see the couch, and you can probably see that's where I used to have the paper backdrop over here, and I used to shoot this way. But anyways, the second main light here is this guy up here. This is another Aperture 120D Mark II with the Aperture Fresnel. And this is really nice because I can work with them both with that old school Aperture controller remote. And this is attached to another Varipole. So this is always permanently mounted here. So that's super nice. And then over in that corner, I just have a storage shelf with some random stuff over there. And one thing I want to mention about lighting too is I have this here. This is a SmallRig 350B that SmallRig sent me a long time ago. You can use whatever light you want, but what I want to mention is the fact that I have this on a portable stand. I use this thing all the time. I roll it around for different things, and I really like having the Aperture lantern as well because I can just light up a lot of different things. I also just use this as a general light in my studio because I don't like the overhead light, so I just throw it into the wall or into the ceiling just to bring up the ambient a little bit while I'm hanging out in here and editing, and it is a nice daylight source. And then over here, which I already talked about, the 200D for lighting the products. I have an Amaran 60D up here with the Amaran spotlight, and I have one of the gobos in there and have it defocused, and that's what creates the texture on the wall that you usually see over here.
So hopefully that was cool for you to take a look around the studio. I didn't want to get into all the nitty gritty because it's just, there's so much going on here, but I wanted to give you a general idea of how I have it set up and sort of the systems I have in place and those sorts of things. And the other thing I forgot to mention about the lighting is I talked about 3 of the lights: key light, the backlight, and then the spotlight on the background. And then this light over here is just a normal lamp, and it has an Amaran B7C, so it's all video lights, and it can control these other 2 lights with the Amaran system, and that's how I create this look here. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this. It's kind of a moment for me to be saying goodbye to the studio. I spent a lot of time in here over the last 4 years, made a lot of videos and created a lot of content and shared a lot of experience with all of you, especially with live streaming. So I just can't thank you guys enough for the support. We're coming up on 50,000 subscribers. Hopefully we get there before the end of the year. It's been an amazing ride so far, and I really enjoy nerding out about cameras with all of you. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and I'll be signing off for the last time in the studio. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.